The Ring camera I unplugged. The first time I unplugged the camera, it wasn't for her. It was for sleep. The blue lead blinked into my bedroom like a tiny cop, and I was not in the mood to be policed by my own house. I yanked the cord, tossed the cable on the dresser, and fell back against linen that smelled like detergent and postponement. I didn't know then that the small act would become the hinge on which a whole summer turned. My name is Owen. I design onboarding flows for a payments company that insists its products are friendly. My personal life is not user-friendly. I was 6 months into a separation that tasted like aspirin, necessary, bitter, and best swallowed quickly. Jules and I had divided the furniture like civilized pirates and sworn to try being kind until lawyers finished translating human wreckage into paragraphs. I took the townhouse. She took the dog and the windows that looked like they believed in mornings. My neighbor across the shared cedar fence was named Myra. I'd seen her at HOA meetings and in the gym at 6 a.m. when machines make everyone look vaguely guilty. She was married to Cal, the kind of handsome that photographs well in campaign mailers, which made sense since he worked at City Hall, Deputy Director for Public Realm Activation. That title does a lot of Pilates. On the night of the camera, I was building an alibi I didn't need yet, triple-checking the audit packet for a nonprofit that had hired us to de-ice their donation flow. The kitchen smelled like overworked coffee. I was 37 and pretending every tab on my laptop was a plan. It was nearly 2 when the knock came, 3 taps precise, like a first violin asking permission to enter. I opened the door to Myra in a raincoat the color of good olives and bare ankles that should have looked reckless, but only looked honest. She cradled a cardboard box that once held a humidifier and now held urgency. "Hi," she said, and her voice did that calm radio thing I would later learn was a choice. "This is odd. I'm sorry. I need a tool." "Which kind?" I said, already moving aside. "The kind that makes a door forget it was locked," she said, stepping in like she'd practiced not flinching. Raindrops made confession on her eyelashes. "Cal left the study locked and my keycard throws a tantrum, and the leak upstairs is auditioning to be a waterfall." I could have handed her a pry bar and wished her luck. I could have called the HOA and watched a committee form in real time. I grabbed my small lock kit and a flathead instead. Her study door faced the fence at the back of their place. She moved through her house without turning on lights, fingers on walls like a pianist sight reading. The carpet had that quiet hotel give. The air smelled like cedar and something lemony, like hands that wash while telling you nothing's wrong. "This is kind," she said softly while I knelt. "I'll pay you in breakfast." "I'll invoice you in coffee," I said. The latch surrendered with the offended sigh of a rule being turned into a suggestion. The study slept in tasteful blues. The ceiling sang water. I shut the valve under the window unit and wrapped a towel where stupidity had been dripping. Myra exhaled like a person who had kept her lungs tidy for others and now needed to use them herself. "Thank you," she said. "Stay. I'll make the coffee and the apology." I should have left. Instead, I followed the warm light into a kitchen that belonged to someone who had learned to plate feelings. She poured with competence. Her mouth quirked when the milk obeyed. A Ring camera faced the yard, its eyes steady and blue. "You unplug yours?" she asked, catching me looking. "Sometimes it thinks it owns the night," I said. "Sometimes I don't want to audition for it," she said. We talked like strangers who'd been given a safe word. Work reigned the HOA's obsession with mulch. Her laugh had this not today edge I wanted to keep making happen. We didn't flirt exactly. We did the thing just to the left of it, trading small accuracies like currency. When she lifted her mug, her sleeve slipped, and there was the faint pale groove where a ring had made a home and recently been evicted. She saw my eyes see it. She didn't cover it. "Cal traveling?" I asked too casually. "Cal activating the public realm," she said with the practiced bite of someone who'd sat through speeches and fallen asleep at the last comma. "He's good at citywide gestures, not great at kitchens." I knew the type. I had been some of that type. At the door she handed me the humidifier box, now filled with damp towels. Her fingers brushed mine the way heat recognizes heat. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a promise. It was a test the night was willing to give us because we'd been polite. "Breakfast," she said, "tomorrow if we wake up brave." "I'll bring the courage," I said, and went back through the rain to my unblinking house, unplugged camera blinking self. We did breakfast. Then we did a walk that made a grocery store aisle feel like a novel. Then, bit by bit, we began building a quiet that had room for heat. We kept it on the right side of caution, kisses that knew where we were, hands that remembered the camera in the corner of a room that pretended not to be watching. She didn't talk much about Cal. When she did, it was as if she was describing whether real, changeable, not personal, except for the one time she used the phrase ambient betrayal and made me want to take apart the house and put it back together with kinder angles. The first real complication arrived as an email. My boss forwarding a news link with no punctuation. "Deputy Director for Public Realm Activation, caught on video at Roof Bar fundraiser, laughing through conflict of interest question." The clip was cruel. Cal on a stool, arm friendly around a developer whose projects had a habit of happening after Cal's office smiled. A city blogger asking, "How do you sleep with so many?" before the drown of music, and the low-angle shot catching Cal's mouth shape a line that might have been a joke or a confession. The internet decided it was both. The next day I saw Cal for the first time up close. He was in the yard in joggers, Rottweiler patience in his stare, anger metabolized into charm. He raised a hand like men do when they want to look harmless. "Hey, neighbor," he said. The Ring camera watched us both like a beat cop who missed his calling. That night I unplugged mine again. I didn't plan the second unplug for Myra. But the next evening she stood on my threshold with a tote bag and the kind of posture people use when they refuse to break in public. She bypassed the kitchen and went straight to the balcony, palms flat on the railing like it was a polygraph. We could hear laughter from the townhouse corridors underscored by the white hiss of sprinklers pretending to rain. "Tell me not to be small," she said. "You're not," I said. She nodded, turned, stepped close. We kissed like people who had decided to use the room for heat and not for explanations. My hands found the small of her back. Her fingers found my shirt at the hem and flattened it, as if to say this is all we're doing tonight. And I agreed with a pressure that made her lean into me like she'd been waiting all day to be allowed to want something without footnotes. We kept it gentle enough to live on a platform and honest enough to remember later as proof. It was not revenge, it was oxygen. We were careful because care is what you earn when the world insists on witnesses. I walked her back through the rain's ghost. She let me touch just once at her wrist, a thumb brushing pulse, a privilege she let me keep. The scandal performed its usual choreography. Pundits, affidavits, a committee. Cal survived by pivoting from charm to righteous indignation. City Hall investigated itself and found it needed stronger verbs. The developer took a short European trip. The blogger posted a follow-up without the bartender's audio that made everything complicated look chosen. Meanwhile, the HOA scheduled a night meeting about unapproved modifications to landscaping. I went because I needed to hear other people talk about anything but want. Myra went because she's a completionist. Cal went because buildings are rooms that clap when he stands up. We sat in plastic chairs. The president droned about mulch. A neighbor pitched a nighttime quiet hours camera program. I felt my spine go stiff as paperwork. Myra did not look at me. Cal raised his hand to say the city encourages community stewardship. Then he said a thing that turned the meeting into a pin. Our pilot, he said, voice measured, recommends ring footage with a 30-day retention shared with a secure portal for incidents. Voluntary, of course. What's voluntary? Another neighbor asked. Myra spoke before I could. The part where you pretend not to have the footage already, she said evenly. Cal's jaw flexed like a man calibrating a smile. We're just suggesting neighbors keep one another safe. Safety is not surveillance with better branding, she said, softer and therefore louder. People shifted in their chairs. Someone coughed. The motion tabled. The meeting adjourned. Cal walked home ahead of us without waiting for her. Later, on my couch in a house that had learned new quiet, we watched a city council stream on low. Myra's head on my shoulder felt like a policy I could believe in. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. You owe me, it read. The HOA camera vote dies if you keep your distance. I typed, new phone who dis, then put it face down and let the room go back to being kind. The night I actually unplugged the camera for her was 3 weeks later, when the river of rumor rose and the townhouses learned to hold their breath. I was home late from battling the language of a release about unexpected downtime that had been as expected as gravity. Thunder did theater on the horizon. Myra texted a single word, here. I opened. She stepped in with the olive raincoat and the wet hair and a silence that had not asked for dessert. Cal has my signal locations, she said, placing her phone on the table like contraband. He says it's for my safety. A pilot. Everything is a pilot until it's a habit. Give me the phone, I said. She did. I killed 3 diagnostics that had dressed as Find My. I toggled a setting that made me hate the engineers who built it and the version of me who might have once applauded how seamless it looked. Then I unplugged the Ring camera, just in case the tiny cop had learned to narc without its cord. We stood very close, 2 people who had both chosen each other and the consequences. I could feel the rain in her hair like punctuation. We kissed, not carefully, not recklessly either, just correctly, as if we had finally tuned to the same station. She made a small sound into my mouth that I want to be loyal to for the rest of my living. My hands mapped her waist and the curve at her hip and stopped exactly where consent asked them to. Her palms kissed my chest through cotton and held, warm and claiming, and then slid to my throat and rested, the soft part where honesty lives. We calmed because that's who we are. She laughed once, a single bell that made the house brighter. You make me feel like a non-pilot, she said. Let's never be beta, I said. The fallout came the next afternoon. A clip from our hallway camera of the night she'd come for breakfast surfaced in a neighborhood forum. It had no audio, just pixels and assumptions. The post was anonymous, the comments not. Cal replied without replying, posting an op-ed about integrity zones and the cost of trust in dense neighborhoods. The HOA called an emergency meeting. My boss pinged me 3 times with nothing but my name. I told the truth to the one person who deserved it first, Jules. We met at the cafe where our breakup had held court. I'm seeing someone, I said. She's not yet divorced. It's complicated. Jules listened like a woman who had practiced for harder news and gotten this instead. Choose the version of yourself you won't resent, she said, and don't make the dog sad. This is why we had been good until we were. The HOA was an amphitheater. I sat in back. Myra sat beside me. Cal stood in front in a tieless shirt and weaponized vulnerability. He said the right things about safety. He said the wrong things about best practices. Then he said my name without saying it, the way people imply the shape and leave the audience to color it in. I raised my hand. When the chair reluctantly nodded, I stood like a man stepping into a room he'd built without doors and said the thing that turned the night. Your pilot violates the city's own guidelines on incidental collection, I said. It turns private cameras into state memory. It doesn't make us safer. It makes us smaller. Do you have expertise? Someone asked. I write the policies that apologize for this, I said, which was technically true in spirit if not in letter. We need quiet, not quiet like secrecy, quiet like consent. Hums, eye rolls, a few nods. The vote failed by one. Cal smiled a smile that said he was counting. The next morning he was on my stoop. He didn't knock. He stood and looked at my unplugged ring like a man assessing a witness that had retired. "You're very sure you're the good guy," he said. "I'm very sure the camera doesn't love us," I said. He stepped closer. His cologne smelled like the word legacy. "Myra goes through phases," he said. "She finds projects." "I'm not a project," I said. "I'm a door she can choose." "Doors get replaced," he said and walked away, casual as a threat trying on a new jacket. That afternoon, the blogger posted a third story, a corrected timeline, a list of meetings, a gif of a city map breathing like a lung. It was the first piece that put the river back at the center, not the men yelling on the bank. Myra sent it to me with a heart and a link to the analytics. "We might get to be boring," she wrote. "I didn't know I wanted boring until then." We didn't get boring. We got sustainable. There were meetings and lawyers and the kind of humilities that teach you what love is actually made of. Myra filed papers. Cal hired a crisis firm that mispronounced my last name in a cease and desist they never sent. The city rewrote a paragraph of a policy none of the pundits would bother to read, and everyone who matters would feel the grace of. The HOA bought nicer mulch. And us? We did not rush the heat out of hiding. We kept it. We earned it. Mornings, she'd lean across my counter and steal a kiss while the kettle made its small applause. Nights, I'd brush my thumb at her wrist and feel the steady truth under skin, and know the cameras weren't invited to any of it. Sometimes we'd stand at the balcony and listen to rain that had learned restraint and talk about nothing in voices that told the story anyway. When I replugged the camera, it was our idea. We turned it to face the door, set retention to 24 hours, deleted the app from our phones, and wrote a post-it for future us. You decide who sees you. It's not a revolution. It's a setting. It matters. I still design flows that call themselves friendly. She still presses the city in all the places it pretends not to bruise. Cal still goes on panels. The blogger moved on to a scandal about scooters. Jules sends me photos of the dog looking at sunsets like an elderly philosopher. And when the tiny blue LED blinks in the night, I look at Myra asleep on her side, mouth soft, hand under her cheek, and I think of the first unplug and the humidifier box, and the way my house learned the shape of a better quiet. I think of the kiss on a rainy balcony when we told the room how to be kind to us. I think of the word pilot and how we stopped being one. The camera blinks, I blink back. Neither of us records. We are here, alive, unarchived, choosing.